All right. New York Post has this report. A brazen duo, including one career criminal with dozens of prior arrests, was arrested for allegedly setting a sleeping man on fire inside Penn Station this week. Damon Johnson of Brooklyn has 88 prior arrests, was picked up Tuesday morning and charged with attempted murder, assault, and reckless endangerment in connection to the late Monday attack on the 37-year-old victim inside the Amtrak Rotunda. So 88 arrests. 80. Actually, it's more than that because there's a report that I just pulled out from the local ABC affiliate that I've seen that he had 88 arrests, but the local news, which I think we could trust more in this case, says that he had 131 arrests dating back to 1995. And he's currently on parole for an armed robbery in 2015 where he stabbed somebody so badly they had to get 100 stitches. So 131 arrests since 1995. That's an average of, do the math on that, that's like one arrest every 2.5 months on average for 30 years. 30 years, one arrest every 2.5 months. I mean, right, am I doing the math on that? Yeah, I think that's about it. Now think about this. Just you kind of break the numbers down. The average American is arrested 0 times in their life. Well, I'll say this. The majority of Americans are arrested 0 times in their life. 70% of Americans, according to what I looked up, are never arrested. And this guy was arrested 130 times in 30 years. So the average American can live to 85, never be arrested once. Most Americans they live to 85, never arrested one time. This guy, 130 times in 30 years. And then there's another 20 to 25% of Americans who are arrested once. So 70% or so are never arrested. 25% or so are arrested once. Usually that's going to be when they were younger, and usually it's something relatively minor, not a violent crime in most cases. And that's the way it goes. So if you were to actually come up with an average, if you were to put all the numbers together and come up with an actual average, like what's the average number of arrests that the average American is arrested how many times? It's like 0.5, right? That's what you come up with because the majority are never arrested at all. And that would put this guy, he's like 260 times over the national average. And even that understates it because almost all, and this is the really important point, almost all of the arrests that happen in a given year, almost all of them, the vast majority of them, are from like 5% of the population. Because you take out the 70% who are never arrested, you take out the 25% who are arrested one time in their entire life, and you're left with 5% of the entire population that's actually doing all the work here in terms of committing crimes and getting arrested. And that's it. 5%. I mean, when it comes to crime and chaos and disorder, almost all of it is coming from 5% of the population. If all of these people, the 5%, were just thrown in a cage forever, if we were to just round them all up, the 5% who are not just committed one crime, constantly committing crimes, and we would just round them all up, put them in a cage, put them in jail, then the rest of us could live in peace. I mean, that's a fact. We could live in a as close to a utopia as you're going to get. I mean, you're never going to actually get, but as close as you're going to get. We could live in a society where every neighborhood in every city is basically safe. We could. You could solve the crime problem, solve it almost completely by arresting the tiny minority of the population that commit basically all of the crime. But we don't do that. Instead, we let them roam the streets, continually releasing them back into the public. And then we watch helplessly as they kill, rape, and destroy, even though nobody on earth, no one in the country can explain why that system makes sense or is fair or just or moral. I mean, you don't even have to round up the 5%. They'll come to you because they keep getting arrested. So you could just put a policy in place where, okay, then, so you got this 5%, they're constantly committing crimes. And so from now on, the next time they're arrested, which will happen, they're never getting out. No matter what they did. No matter what they did. You're in this 5% of the population that are committing you have multiple arrests. You're a chronic offender. Your next offense, whatever it is, I don't care if it's a parking ticket. Whatever it is, you're done forever. We could do that. We could do that. We could do that and live in peace. And the fact that nobody wants to face, this is the basic fact that I think very few people want to face, because it's a difficult fact to face, but it is a fact, is that some people, a small minority, it's this 5% here who are the chronic offenders who are committing almost all the crime. They are not capable of living in a civilized society. They are not capable of it. They will not be reformed. They will not be rehabilitated. They will not be made into productive citizens. Okay, there will not be a happy ending for them. And we can either face that reality and deal with it accordingly, or we can insist, as we've done for decades, to live in a fantasy world. To live in a fantasy world where, a guy who's already been arrested 10 times before he turns 25, that guy might one day magically reform himself and become a businessman with a wife and 3 children and, a mortgage that he pays on time every month. No, that guy, the guy there that's in the 5% causing all the problems, he's never going to get married. He's never going to have a wife. He's never going to own a home. He's never going to have a mortgage. He's never going to pay a bill ever. He's never going to contribute anything to society except death and destruction. And that's just how it is. Except in rare exceptions. There's exceptions to every rule. And I'm sure you could look at this and you could find the rarest of exceptions of people who are totally dysfunctional, chronic, repeat criminals, and who have this miraculous turnaround. And I believe in miracles as a Christian. But our justice system cannot depend on them. Okay, that's not how your justice system can operate. It's no different. I believe in people can be miraculously healed from their sicknesses, but a doctor cannot depend on that. If I go to a doctor, I don't want to hear from the doctor that, well, go home and pray and maybe there will be a miracle. Yeah, maybe there will be, but that cannot be your medical plan. Okay, that can't be your treatment plan for me. And that can't be our plan for these chronic killers, criminals. So, and that's what's so frustrating about it, is that this is all so solvable. It really is. We just have to be willing to do what's necessary. I mean, this is the Bukele. I'm not saying anything new here. This is not some new strategy I'm proposing. This is the Bukele strategy. This is what Bukele did. He came in and said, we've got total death and destruction and disorder. And so I'm just going to do what needs to be done to put a stop to it. And anybody wants to talk about civil rights and all this other stuff, none of that means anything. You can't have any of that. If you're going to get set on fire by a guy who's been arrested 100 times already, You know, or if you're standing on a subway platform because you want to use public transportation, which should be your right as a citizen, and you get pushed onto the tracks by a drug-addled schizophrenic who's already been arrested 57 other times, where are your civil rights? Like, what about the basic right that we all should have as citizens to live in a well-ordered, safe, and just society? That's a right that we all have as actual productive, law-abiding citizens. And these people in the 5% of repeat chronic offenders, they are making it impossible for the rest of us to exercise that right.